Hi everyone, and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy, and my name is Mehmet. And today is the final part of learning the Astrological Decans. If you haven't already checked out the other parts of this mini-series, I suggest you do so. The first part was learning about what decans are and how they work within a chart and the mathematical equation to them. And we looked at the two main systems, which is the traditional Chaldean system and the more modern triplicity system, which is the system I've been concentrating on in this series. And then from after that, I've gone through each season and looked at the signs in each season and their decans. So part 2 was about Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Part 3 was about Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Part 4 was about Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. And this one will be about the winter season of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we can jump straight into it. So if you just bear with me for a brief moment, and I'll open that, and then we can jump straight into it. So let me just move this up. So Capricorn first decan from December the 22nd to December the 31st, and this is from 0 degrees Capricorn to 10 degrees Capricorn, and the planetary ruler for this decan is ruled by Saturn. So the patience and determination of Capricorns are legendary. They aren't nearly as self-confident as people think. Bear with me for a moment. There we go. But their sheer hardiness and capacity in all endeavors is unmatched. They are the real pillars of strength to lean against when the winds become storms. While sometimes dictatorial and always to some degree inflexible and rigid, they are sweet at the core with a great sense of humor. They are practical and realistic with little time for whims and fantasy. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And with the Saturn energy, because obviously Saturn is about boundaries and restrictions and limitations. And the thing is, within astrology or generally, Saturn always gets a bad rap because it correlates with like the archetype of Satan. But like I always say, all planets and all archetypes have a positive and negative attributes. Because at the end of the day, we need some boundaries in our life, then otherwise we'll have no discipline or no order in place. So it just depends in which way you use the Saturnian energy. Obviously, like within like the truth community, Saturn is always kind of had this kind of evil feel about it, or like a kind of malefic, harsh feel, which it does. But like I said, we need that energy within our life to keep us structured and organized. Because if we was just totally free flowing, then everything would be all over the place. So, and also just to kind of recap, if you have or haven't been watching this series, the first decan of each sign is always ruled by the same planet as the sign is ruled. So for example, Libra, which is ruled by Venus, its first decan will be, its first planetary ruler for the first decan will be Venus. So Gemini's first decan planetary ruler will be Mercury, because that sign is ruled by Mercury. So the first decan in each sign is always has the same planetary ruler as the whole sign. And then the next two signs, planetary rulers, are the rulers of signs of the same element. So that's just, I'm just giving you that information as a bit of a recap. So let's go on to the second decan of Capricorn, which is from January the 1st to January the 10th, and it's from 10 degrees of Capricorn to 20 degrees of Capricorn, and the planetary ruler for this decan is Venus. The second Taurus decan of Capricorn is very patient and hardworking, but will not forsake relaxation and the finer things in life for accomplishment. They may be artistic And if they feel they have the talent, they will go about exploring it in a quiet, wholehearted way that compensates for their slow intake of new experiences. These people feel that if something has to be done, it must be done properly and to the bitter end. It's very interesting, actually, because I don't have any planets in Capricorn or in the second decan of Capricorn, but I can relate to this decan because it's correlating with the Taurus energy, and I have my moon in Taurus, and it's definitely true what it says. We are quite slow with people who have like strong Taurus energy, can be seen as quite slow in doing things, but the slowness kind of adds to the quality, if that makes sense. Although they might be slow, the quality of what they produce or what they do will be to the best. So, like I always say, for every negative, there's always a positive, and the same for every positive, there's always a negative. So you always have to try and be neutral and look at things in the middle. Like that, like what I was saying about the whole Saturn vibe. Yeah, it can be harsh and malefic, and it might seem a bit harsh, but at the same time, you need that structure to keep you in order and keep you organized. So moving on, the third decan of Capricorn is from January the 11th to January the 20th, and this is from 20 degrees of Capricorn to 30 degrees of Capricorn, and the ruler of this decan is Mercury. So being born under the Virgo decan of Capricorn is a mark of a certain restlessness and a great desire for functionality and effectivity. While far from impulsive daredevils, they lack the significant patience of the first two Capricorn decans. Administrative ability is at its highest here, and these Capricorns have great practical intelligence and organizational skills. It's an indication of a scientific mind seeking empirical evidence. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because obviously we know Mercury is about communication and it's about the mind, it's about the intellect. And obviously, for people who know about Virgo and the sign of Virgo, and the motto of Virgo is I analyze. So people with a lot of planets or their sun in the third decan of Capricorn will have these mercurial kind of energies and these mercurial skills in the way they do things. This is why decans are so interesting, and why like people who are skeptical about astrology always say, oh, well, if you're all Scorpio, then you should all be the same. But it's not as simple as that. It's so intricate. It depends how many planets you have in that sign. It depends what decan those particular planets are in, which house it's in. So there's so many variations to being a Scorpio or being a Capricorn or whatever sign it is. So it's never as straightforward as just being Scorpio or being a Capricorn or being an Aries. Obviously, all Aryan people will have some similar things, but it always depends on the individual chart. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to the next sign in the winter season, which is Aquarius. So Aquarius first decan, it's from January the 21st to January the 29th, and that's from 0 degrees Aquarius to 10 degrees Aquarius. And the planetary ruler for this decan is Uranus. And maybe for those who are concentrating more on the classical astrology, you could also say it's Saturn as well. So the first decan of Aquarius is one of complexity and individualism. These people are free thinkers and nonconformists with a high moral consciousness and the desire to benefit the community. In spite of highly socialized and group-oriented, they can long for solitude and be somber in mood and easily depressed while displaying a joyful exterior. You'll almost never find one of these people simple. Even with limited education, they manage to seem insightful and impartial and reasonable. Again, this makes sense if you understand the energy and the themes of Aquarius. Uranus, should I say, because Uranus corresponds with the firmament. So it corresponds with more of the spiritual world rather than the physical world, because Uranus is on top of Saturn. So this is why it says these people think outside of the box. Excuse the pun, because Saturn is also known as a cube. But yeah, these people are very mental as well, because it's about the firmament, the sky. Hence the word firmament means firm mind. So yeah, these people are very rebellious. They're good thinkers. They're very what's the word, revolutionary, and spark new ideas. Just the Uranus energy in general is like that. So it's explaining how these first decan Aquarians, that's how they will be, will correspond more with a Uranian energy. So moving on to the second decan of Aquarius, which is from January the 30th to February the 8th, from 10 degrees of Aquarius to 20 degrees of Aquarius, and this is ruled by the planet Mercury. So the second Gemini Mercury decan of Aquarius, the nature is a bit lighter in spirit, but also lacks staying power. Extremely alert and bright, they can be cultural, artistic, or scientific chameleons, soaking up and interpreting ideas and manners of others with ease. Abstract theories appeal to them, and they are fascinated by the invincible powers behind social interaction and communication. Some people may find them insensitive or too mentally oriented, since they may be at loss with relating in others ways that are purely intellectual. So yeah, I don't really have much to add upon that. It's kind of self-explanatory. Again, it's quite a mental energy, because Mercury and Uranus are quite mental energies. It's often said, I've heard, just again, nothing concrete from reading, just from people speaking, that Uranus is actually a higher octave of Mercury. So those first two decans, you could say, are very mental decans, whereas the last decan, as you can see, is ruled by Venus. Obviously, they're all mental decans because they're all air signs, but yeah, Mercury specifically and Uranus are quite mental energies. Whereas the last decan, which is ruled by Venus, kind of corresponds a bit with Earth as well. So Aquarius third decan, from February the 9th to February the 18th, from 20 degrees to 30 degrees Aquarius, and the planetary ruler is Venus. So Libra decan water bearers are refined characters. While they may lack depth of emotion, they are extremely good with people, appealing to crowds. They make fine statesmen, women, and politicians. They care about other people's insides and are highly idealistic and humanitarian, constantly involved in some cause for bettering of whatever they believe in. These people can exhibit much more grace and style and are well suited for the world of fashion. However, they can be mentally narcissistic. So that's really important, where I said how Venus kind of corresponds a bit more with earthly stuff. And here it's talked about how they're well suited for fashion. And obviously, any Venus placement or anything with a Venus vibe is always very artistic. I've noticed that a lot about Librans and Taurians. They're very, very good artistic people. I would say Taurians would be more artistic in relation to maybe singing and maybe the more like earthly stuff, whereas the Librans are good like with painting and like drawing and that type of stuff. That's just like from my own personal observation from family members and friends that I know. So moving on to the last sign of the zodiac and the last sign of this series, Pisces. So Pisces first decan, from February the 19th to February the 29th, and that's from 0 degrees to 10 degrees. And the planetary ruler is Neptune. Also, some may see it as Jupiter. So the first decan Pisceans wander through life like soap bubbles, open to every sensation and experience, elusive and sensitive. They are mystically inclined and frequently psychic, or at least highly intuitive. They care little for money but love beautiful things and comfort, so they may need it anyway. That is if they don't become monks, forsaking everything and resisting every passion and worldly craving. They aren't very self-assertive, and their lack of ego can make people take advantage of them. So yeah, that makes sense to me, because Neptune, when I think of Neptune, I think of a very dreamy kind of world. And yeah, Pisceans kind of have this label of being quite dreamy people and kind of too nice for their own good. And I love Piscean people. I have so many Pisces friends, and I think they're all beautiful. All the signs are beautiful, because at the end of the day, there's no sign which is good and no sign which is bad. Obviously, there might be like particular little things that may niggle some people. Like sometimes I always think Librans always tend to be late, and they're not very punctual. But I don't hate them for it. For example, people say Scorpios are very moody, and people don't like Scorpio. So it all depends. But personally, I show no discrimination to any sign, because even if you don't have any planets in any particular sign, we have all of the signs in us, because all of the signs is Adam Kadmon, the 12 signs, and they all go through our body. So we are all of them, but it's just that the signs that we have planets in are more amplified than the other ones, basically. So moving on. Second decan of Pisces, from March the 1st to March the 10th, from 10 degrees to 20 degrees of Pisces, ruled by the moon. So the second Cancer decan of Pisces, with rays from the moon, is the most prudent and economical of the Pisces decans. These Pisceans need security both financially, spiritually, and tend to worry too much about everything. They are also one of the sweetest and most loyal of all decans in the zodiac, sacrificing themselves for loved ones without so much as a thought to what they are doing. However, they can also become complaining or perhaps leeching individuals, hypochondriacs, and generally overly sensitive. Sorry, I'm laughing because it's just the way it says about the whinging bit, because obviously Pisces people are known to be a bit of like, how can I say, crybabies, or a bit whingy, which, yeah, I can kind of see that in some Cancerians or people with strong Cancer placements. So that's why it made me laugh, because that's what I love about astrology. Whenever I'm reading something and I know someone has a particular placement who I know personally, it makes me laugh because it's so spot on in what it's saying. But yeah, we'll move on to the third decan of Pisces, which is from March the 11th to March the 20th. And it's from 20 degrees to 30 degrees of Pisces. And the planetary ruler is Pluto, or Mars, you could also say as well, if you're looking at it from a classical astrology perspective. The third decan Pisceans may have their heads full of bizarre ideas, but they somehow manage to rationalize and sublimate all of them. They are highly spiritual and poetic. For less hardy exemplars, it is sometimes too much to take. Often these fishes are paradoxical and typically more vindictive and jealous of other Pisceans, who don't seem to have a drop of a bad blood in their body. Third decan Pisceans are highly receptive and sensitive, but perhaps less so than the other decans. Again, I know one person who is a Pisces Scorpio, which would be their sun in the third decan, and they're not how this is explaining they are. But again, that's only one person. So, and obviously, another thing as well is I feel like sometimes when you read people their charts, what I'll do, I'll stop sharing the screen now because I've finished reading. What I find as well sometimes is sometimes people are not the way this, for example, people might not express the way they are in public, but may be that way in private. Like, for example, I'm a Scorpio, right? But a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're not very Scorpion. Like, you're a bit like you're quite upbeat and you're very calm and you're not moody and stuff like this." But I'm not generally, like in my outside personality, I'm not. That is one, because I'm a Leo rising, and two, I have 5 planets in Sagittarius. So I'm very fiery as well. I actually have more, my ruling element in my chart is fire, then water, then air, and I have 10% of earth. So I don't have a lot of earth in my chart. But the thing is, you can't always judge someone just from them being a Scorpio. But let me get to the point. What I was trying to say is I find myself being more Scorpion when I'm alone rather than when I'm with people. And I guess maybe that could go to my rising sign or my stellium in Sagittarius. But I feel like I'm quite Scorpion when I'm alone and I'm researching and I'm digging deep and I'm, trying to find things out and trying to work things out and be tactical is when I'm alone rather than when I'm with people. So what I'm saying is these traits may not show in the outer personality of someone, but deep within them, they will still have them traits. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this little series. I may do one more series in relation to decans, but it kind of correlates more with like the medical side of astrology. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to add that into my medical astrology series, because I'm kind of thinking after doing the decans, I was going to start concentrating more on the medical side of astrology, unless you guys wanted me to touch on something that I haven't done already. So yeah, I was going to start getting into the medical side of things and looking at cell sorts and particular foods or herbs that correlate with particular signs. Although I've done one, I did like a brief video on medical astrology. It was kind of just like an introductory video. So after this, doing the decans, I want to kind of concentrate more on the medical side of it, or what I can do essentially is use the decan video in relation to medical astrology as like a bridge into the medical side of astrology as well. So like I always say, if you have any questions or made anything unclear, always feel free to message me on the inbox via the academy and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Peace, love and blessings. I'm out.